Masech Sanhedrin Daf Vav Amud Aleph, 16 lines down. Today's daf is sponsored by Anonymous in Le'ilui Nishmat, ELAZAR ben TANNA. Rabbi Chiya bar Azunu Kiv Rabbi Shimon ben Yehotzedek HaVeka Azli La'abir Shana Ba'asya. During Shemitah, these rabbis went to travel to Asya to see if they have to make the year a leap year. Paga Be'uresh Lakish Itfi B'Hadaya, Resh Lakish met them and joined them. Amar Izlah Tehechi Abdei Uda. Resh Lakish said, I want to go see how they do the procedure. As they were walking, Resh Lakish saw a guy plowing. Amar Lahen, he told Rabbi Chiya and Rabbi Shimon, he says, Kohen Hodesh, this guy is probably a Kohen, and he's plowing during Shemitah, which is not allowed. I know they told him, hold on a second. Maybe it's not an Isur that he's plowing on Shemitah. Yes, you're not allowed to work on Shemitah, but maybe he's working as an employee. He's just helping out the employer. So another guy in the vineyard who was pruning the branches. Amar Lahen, he said, Kohen Vizumer, he's a Kohen, and he's pruning the branches on the vineyard against the halacha. I'm going to tell them, maybe he's not making avira, maybe he's cutting the branches because he needs it for his olive press. The branches, the special netting for the olive press. Where it says, he told them, he says the heart knows whether or not if it's for the netting or for the wrong thing. He used a play on words on the word akil and the akil. He says, yes, no, only he knows what he's doing it for, and he suspected he's wrong. Hi Amar Lahu Bresha. The Gemara says, which one did he accuse first? If you want to see the first accusation he made regarding the plowing was first, then how come regarding the pruning guy, he could have used the same thing, the same answer of maybe he's an employee there as well? Why did it, if the first story was the guy with the uh plowing, he could use the same answer for the second guy as well. So it must be that the first story, what happened first was the pruning, and he gave a separate answer over there. What they answered him separately, what he could have been doing, he could have been just handling uh he could have been handling uh the land as an employee, and the second one he gave it's the first one. Sorry, the first one was he said maybe he's just using it for netting, and the second answer they gave him as employee. Okay, Ma'aseh Kohen. Why do you automatically assume in both cases the guy is a Kohen? Mishum da hashdi ashvit, because Kohanim, the answer is because Kohanim were more prone to being over on the mitzvot of Shiv'ait. The Tanna says, Sa'at Rumash Nafal Me'as Inshal Shiv'ait Ta'aleh. If a se'ah, which is a certain measurement of terumah, falls into 100 se'ahs of shvi'it fruits, it's batel b'me'ah, and therefore you could use it. But if it falls into less than 100, everything you have to let it all spoil. Vavin, but ask the question, am I going to let it spoil? Sell the mixture to a kohen at the terumah price, which is much cheaper because only kohanim can have it, and exclude that se'ah of terumah. So if it's 70 terumah, sell them 69. The Gemara says, the reason why you want to do that is because it doesn't matter. You don't want to sell them the Shemitah stuff because Kohanim have a higher chance of illegally dealing with Shemitah, and therefore that's why Rish Lakish in these two cases assumed the guy was a Kohen. Amru, anyhow, they continue walking. Tiradohu Dayan. They see this guy is he argues a lot. They're walking with Rish Lakish. They said, this Rish Lakish guy, he's nonstop arguing with us. They arrived in the place. They went to the upper floor and they pulled the ladder away so Rish Lakish cannot join them. After the Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish came in front of Yochanan, he told them, now he's very upset that he can't join. He traveled all the way with them and they moved the ladder away. He tells them, you guys are defending people who are being over on Shvi'it, and you guys are the one who are going to be Me'aber the Shana? You guys are going to add the leap year? Then he said another thing. Like, actually, you know what? Maybe you are eligible. Maybe you're compared to three shepherds. Oh, snap. And Hachamim, was we saw earlier with the case of the guys who were talking about the weather, and they used their advice. He said, yeah, they rely on shepherds. Maybe that's why. But he said, you know what? Look at me. No. Over there, they already voted and thought about it already for the year. But over here, regarding you two rabbis, you guys are a bunch of wicked men, a group of wicked men. Wicked men are not counted as part of the minyan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Da'aka. He says, Rabbi Yochanan finally answered him and said, listen, you can't call us that. You can't call us wicked people. When Rabbi Yochanan went to Rabbi Yochanan, they said to him, why didn't you say anything when he called us shepherds? Why did you only answer him when he called us wicked? Marley told him, if he would have called you sheep shepherds, what would you have said? What would I have said to him? Meaning, yes, if he would have called you sheep shepherds, it would have been worse because any sheep shepherd is pasul. Regular shepherds are kasher unless proven otherwise. He's like, so it wasn't such a bad insult. Now, my kasher regime, what do you mean? Where do you learn this phrase of a wicked group? Story. Shavna Havadarish Betlesar Rabeta. Shevna, the King Hizkiah was supervisor, used to give shiur to 130,000 students. Hizkiah, the king himself, he used to teach 110,000, 20,000 less followers. Sanhedrin came in and made a siege around Yerushalayim. Katav Shevna Pitka Sheta Bagirat. Shivna wrote a note, and he shot the note through an arrow to Sanhedrin. Shavnach v'si'ato hashlimu, Hizkiah v'si'ato lo hashlimu. He wrote that Shivna himself and his following is willing to surrender and allow Sanhedrin inside Jerusalem to do what he wants with the Beit HaMikdash. Shneimar Pasuk says, Ki hine harashayim yidrechun keshet konenu chaitzam yater. Pasuk then talks about Shibna's betrayal to give in. This Pasuk. Hizkiah was scared. Why? Hashem might go with majority. And majority is with this Shivna because he's 130,000, only 110,000. Maybe I should surrender as well. Navi came, Yeshaya came to him and said to him, Lo tumerun kesher l'chol asher yomar ha'am hazeh kesher. Kasher, sorry. It's not considered a group, which means he's considered wicked, and wicked people are not considered count as part of the minyan, and therefore it's not 130 to 110,000, it's 110 to 0. Shivna was so convinced that he's going to become king next because he's going to surrender. He ended up going to the house of David Melech's kever, the family kever of David Melech, and he started picking himself a grave for the royal graves because he's always becoming king. Navi came to him and said, who do you think you are digging a grave over here? Hashem calls you to wander. To be a beggar as a man is harder than a woman because a man doesn't get as much pity as a woman does. And that's why he cursed him to be like a beggar of a man. Be wrapped. So he had sarat all over him. They do a pasuk Gzera Shamar teach you that he had sarat. Hashem will surround you with enemies and like a hat, etc. Tana means he wanted to shame his master, Hizkiah's family, and therefore his own glory turned to shame. What happened? And it's a very funny story. When Shivna and his people were going to march out to surrender, Gabriel came, once Shivna walked out first, Gabriel came and locked the gate behind him. Everybody else was stuck behind him. He had to walk by himself to Sanhedrin. Amrullah told him, where's your people? Amrullah, he said, they backed out. Amrullah said, if that's the case, you came by yourself. You're a joke. They cut holes through his heels. They hung him from the tails of the horses. They dragged him over thorns and pointy things. ELAZAR, Shivna Baal Hana'ahaya. Shivna was a guy who always looked for pleasures. Okay. Similar pasuk says the Sha'ot are destroyed. It says that if Hizkiah and his family, the pasuk is saying, Yani, if Hizkiah gets destroyed and his people get destroyed, what's going to happen to? Why would Hashem do that to Hizkiah? What did he deserve that? And another one said he prayed, if Bet HaMikdash is destroyed by the Shivna, what will become of Hashem's people? Ula says, if Shivna is plans are not foiled, then what will be with Hizkiyahu, with his tzidkut? So the Gemara says, this makes sense according to the word opinion that holds that the shatot means uh is referring to the designs of the plan of Shivna. That's why it shall be destroyed. The designs. Also referred to the also makes sense. There's a stone from the Bet HaMikdash that was in the Qudra of the Shin that was there from beginning of almost beginning of time. It was called just Shtiyah stone. And therefore, maybe the pasuk is referring to the Shtiyah that has been destroyed. But according to Pinyon holds that Shatot refers to Hizkiyahu and his people. Where do we see that tzaddikim are called Shatot? Where says the Tiv Kila Hashem Kila Monai Min Suke Eretz V'Yashet Alehem Tevel. Maybe the man Yachad in pasuk Hifli Atzah Hechdil Tushia. We see Tushia also is considered like the foundation of the world. So now we're going to talk about more about that word. Why is the Torah called Tushia? Because it weakens a person. He learns Torah, he becomes weaker. The next mission, Tushia is because it was given in secrecy against the Yetzirah's will. Yetzirah said it doesn't belong to people, but Torah belongs to the angels, and it was given against his will in secret. Tushia is because the Torah is made out of words, and yet the world runs on that. The world runs on the Torah's words, which are basically error and quote unquote nothing there. Anxiety about parnasa makes a person forget his Torah. Amar Abba says, however, if a person is worried about learning Torah of Lishma, he's not going to forget his learning. A person who's the Torah will always stand for him. And therefore, if you're worried about Torah, that's a good thing to be worried about. Do the daf. Rida says back to our Mishnah, back to our regular programming. Rida said that when are a person's gambling considered pasul for edut? Only if that's his primary source of income. Rabbi Abahu Maria ELAZAR according to Rabbi Yehuda. Interesting. Today's daf is the man named ELAZAR, and it mentions ELAZAR right now. Okay. Rabbi Abahu Maria ELAZAR. Any person who becomes pasul for edut has to be announced in public that he is pasul. Regarding a shepherd, Rab Acha and Ravina are not sure whether they have to announce it. One opinion holds that you do have to announce it. One opinion holds you don't have to announce it. Makes sense. According to holds that you don't need to announce it. Because he holds that every general shepherds are pasul. If we have to announce it, it's automatic. You do need to announce it. Then why do you hold how do you explain Rav that says that you're automatically pasul? What's the point of announcing it? The Gemara says, it's true. You have to announce any guy who becomes a shepherd, it's automatically pasul, and you have to announce it. Okay, there's a document, gift document that was written. Two robbers were signed as the idim. Because they never officially announced them as pasul. I hear they have to make a announcement to make him pasul if they're a robber by midrabanan, like in our Mishnah, the gambling people. But these guys stole miduraita. They're for sure pasul. You don't have to announce it, and the document is pasul. The person who accepts gifts from goyim, charity from goyim, are pasul for edut. That only applies if they accept his flus publicly, but in private they're not pasul. And if they accepted it publicly, that's only if they have the option of accepting it privately, and they still did it publicly. They come because he's just embarrassing himself. But if he can't accept the money privately, and this is the only way of getting money, then it's okay. Someone who's suspected of having illegal relations with a woman is pasul for edut. He said, answer me, my master. Abain beketve kasher. How's it possible that technically, if this guy's suspected about doing something, you could give him makut midrabanan? This guy, you're going to let him testify, but you could give him makut. Gemara says, okay, Amarava, u'modera nahan l'inyan nedud isha hu shepuzul. No, he's testifying, he's pasul automatically if it's testifying about a woman. What does that mean? Amaravina v'itmer Rabban pa lo amaran ela la'apoka. That's only if this testimony is going to make her divorce. And he's testifying that she's divorced. Then he can't marry her because he's already has a shaky history with being with women. But if he's testifying on her to get married, then we believe him because he has no possible motive. Why would we say that you can't testify? He's making her asur to him. Why would that be? The commercial mind he might think, maybe he would want her to be asur to him. Why? The pasuk says, stolen waters are sweet. And therefore, you might think that he's wants her to be asur because it's better if it's stolen. Like when you take your wife's water bottle. Hakamash Therefore, the Mishnah teaches you therefore, it teaches you that as long as she is unmarried, he prefers her to be unmarried because it's easier for him to be with her, and that's why he's only not believed in this scenario to make her to say that she's not married. Okay, Amar Rahman, Ganav Nisan v'Ganav Tishrei lo shmei Ganav. A guy who steals in Nisan or Tishrei certain types of seasons of the fruits and grapes, he's not considered a real thief because he's trying to just make some extra food while working in the fields for people. He's a seasonal thief. He said that only applies to a sharecropper who has a deal with the guy who's working for, and he takes more than he's supposed to take. Only takes small amount. Only takes ripened stuff. But if anything else, he's pasul. One time, the guys who used to work in the farm of Zvid, not the sharecropper, stole some barley, and Rav Zvid said he's pasul. One guy stole a cluster of dates and he says pasul because they weren't sharecroppers. Okay. I know there was a guy who was these guys who used to dig graves, who they buried somebody on the first day of Chag on Shavuot, which is Asur. They put him in Galut and they said pasul from testifying. Ravuna said, you know what, you can testify. They did something like Isur. The rest said, no, Savri mitzvah ka'avdi. They didn't mean it. They said they're doing mitzvah to bury someone. I'm told they didn't know it was Asur. Therefore, they're kasher. What do you mean? You already said they're going to Galut. So of course they're Rishaim and etc. I must know. No, they think that because he said in the Galut, they're now they say they made him since we sent him to Galut, therefore it's kapara. Itmar. Right, it says Ed Zomim. A guy who testifies and he becomes a Zomim witness. We mentioned this before. A Zomim witness is a chidush from the Torah that they're not believed because the two witnesses testify and that they weren't there. Like, how do you testify on Tuesday if we were there, you were with us on Tuesday? And whatever they're supposed to do to the plaintiff, that happens to those witnesses. Versus the question is, if this guy testified Sunday through Friday and he gets Zomim on Tuesday, is he pasul only from Tuesday and on? Or whatever he testified Wednesday, Thursday is pasul, or even from beforehand he's pasul as well. Where it says, sorry, if he's Zomim on Friday and he testified Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and he testified the Tuesday was the Zomim testimony, does the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday become pasul, or he's only pasul from Friday on? Retroactively from Tuesday, because in the morning he testified he's considered Rasha. But you can have a Rasha being testifying. Only from now on. Because why in Zomim witness this concept is a chidush. Why is it a chidush? Because what's the chidush? Technically, you have two witnesses against two witnesses. Why should you believe two? You may believe the other two. Torah teaches you that you do rely on the second two is a chidush, and therefore you only have from the time of the chidush, which is from our case of Friday and on. Different version. Rav actually held like Abaye. So why do you still hold it from then on? Because he says, listen, technically it should be retroactively, but I feel bad for people who may have done business and use them as test and use them. Let's say the guy testified on Thursday on a business deal. You don't want to make the guy lose money. My banana, what's the difference? Equally now, there's a difference, practical difference, because the Asidu today, Behad, was that two witnesses testified to say one of the witnesses are Asur, right? That's technically two sets against one set. Therefore, the you don't need the Hidush of the Itzumim anymore because it's two sets versus one set. In a different answer, the Paslinu Belanuta, they testified that the first set is Pasul, that they're Pasul because they robbed someone. And therefore, testifying that the guy is Pasul because he robbed someone, then there's no more chidush because you're not testifying on their testimony, you're testifying on their eligibility. And in that case, if you are worried about purchasers, it still shouldn't count because you're worried about for the purchasers. Difti. Rapapi Avda Kavide Rava, Rapapi one time ruled according to Rava. More Rav Ashi, Hachata Kavide Abaye, but more Rashi said you hold like Abaye. The Hachataka Bated Abaye, Yal Kagam, Alachaz Abaye, in the 6 cases in Shas, Yal Kagam 6 times in Shas, the Halachaz Abaye against Rava.